It's good to see the folks who are showing up this morning. Here's Candace, good to see her. Maybe one day we will meet at 8 o'clock at the intersection in person. We might have to do that sometime or figure out a permanent location where we can do hybrid and do that well. But not today, not today. We're not going to do it today. So good morning. It's 8 o'clock and we're at the intersection and I have a little bit of a frog throat thanks to allergies, but I'm here and you're there and this is all good. So any announcements while we kind of wait for a few others to join us? Other than I'm getting on a plane after this and flying to Seattle with my daughter, son-in-law, and my grandson for a wedding. I'm not going. I have to stay with my grandson. Somebody needs to stay with him. It's a tough job, but I'm willing to do it. So I'm looking forward just to going somewhere. Any thoughts out there? Things that are happening? Things that need our support? Yeah, time change. It's made mornings quieter, slower. We're going.
Good morning, Anne. This is Lauren Deal.
Hey, Lauren Deal.
I'm
Do you have
also
a deal
driving
for
to
us?
work,
Ah,
No, I was just gonna plug VDSA. It's starting April 15th, and as a reminder, it's a campaign that runs April 15th to June 15th. Whenever your organization or you want to participate by finding a time to provide food, time, money, and voice to the food bank. Yeah, that's all. I figured since no one else was talking, I'd offer.
that's right. That's right. And that's something we can all participate in. I know I'm working on a project with my other grandson who's 6. And so we're working on a project to step our street in our neighborhood. Thought it would be
I love it.
Yeah, I just thought it would be something good for us to do. And yeah, so we're working on that. Yeah. Martha Ann, did you want to make an announcement about compassion training?
Wonderful, thanks. Can you see me?
Yep, see and hear.
Anne Helmke and a team once upon a time found compassionate integrity training as a wonderful way of developing our skills. And this has grown and grown. And this summer, we're going to have a wonderful Compassion Institute. So if you would like, our friends of yours would like to go through the 10-week series, Build Your Compassion Muscles, and be ready for the summer, you're invited Tuesday evenings, 6:45 to 8:45. And in a few minutes, when I don't have face lotion on my hands, I'll put the link in the chat box.
So it starts this Tuesday and it goes for 10 weeks. And so thank you. I encourage everyone to do that. And I think that Andre is with us and he has an announcement as well.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. It has been a while since I've been here. I'm recovering from knee surgery and I miss it all. I'm doing well. And I saw Ann yesterday and I was like, Ann, it's great to see you. And actually I'm actually going to have Assam, who's our community navigator. He's been in my stead doing things, doing a wonderful job here with Culture Wing. We're getting information out and he's putting together event. And so Assam, I know he's here and I will just turn it over to him to share some information. So thank you all. And I enjoy these and I miss them. So just let you guys know that. Assam, go ahead.
Good morning. You hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good morning, everybody. As Dr. mentioned, Dr. Andrea mentioned that within our program, which is Community Forecom program, we had several events. So next coming Saturday, which is March 18, we will have event. We are celebrating the Earth Hour, which all the country over the world they celebrate this hour is as a commitment for the climate change impacts. So where we turn off the light for 1 hour. So I will drop the poster, the flyer actually for that event. I hope that you can join us. It's from 8 p.m. until 9 p.m. We turn off the light and then light up the candles, and then just celebrate, as I mentioned, that it's a commitment from us to the climate change, the impact, to reduce the impact of the climate change. And then I will drop the flyer
That's exciting.
with
I hadn't
everything,
heard
the
that.
address and the time. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for doing that.
Yes.
Thank you
Mhm.
for
Thank
doing
you.
that. And Billy also just put into chat where you can find recordings of what we're doing even today from past intersections.
Morning, this
So
is Joseph. Do you mind if I say something that segues into the housing?
you go,
Hi,
Joseph.
everyone.
It's good to hear your voice.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've actually not just observed and made lunch while we do the meeting. I'm now housing coordinator with the Housing First Community Coalition. We're starting up a permanent supportive housing property on the east side called Town Twin Village. I'm very, very grateful we have the neighborhood that we do. It's for people 50 years and older coming out of chronic homelessness. And we're opening up with our first residents coming in March 27th. So we're trying to make a dent in the need for permanent supportive housing in the community. There's going to be a lot of volunteer opportunities. I think you'll probably hear from us in a formal thing later. But we're excited. We're nervous. It's all of it coming soon for us.
You brought that up because I was going to share that this morning as well. Not quite in this order, but I'm going to do it anyway. We're going to just change the order. Excuse me, I'm going to cough. So Joseph just mentioned Town Twin Village, and I was going to look at it a little bit later, but since he brought it up, you
Thank
can
you.
find it online.
Housingfirstsa.org. Housingfirstsa.org.
And they even have up here some of their most beautiful renderings and drawings of the plans. And I know that you can go visit at any time, but they're tiny houses and they're apartments. We're going to get to some photos here shortly, and I wanted to show you these photos. It's on the east side. Here are some of the renderings that you can look at. There's also a video, but here they start the photos and looking at the build and how it's been going. The reason I wanted to talk this morning about property with a purpose was really to get more people involved and knowledgeable of what is happening and what could be happening, even more so in our city. So I'm really proud of Town Twin and what they've done. On the kind of near south side, St. John's Seminary was recreated, refit into affordable housing. Plus they did some builds as well. And there are other places that have been doing that. But I really wanted to just kind of, again, share with people this possibility to get more involvement, but also to tell you a little bit about what we've been doing. And I noticed that some of the folks from the Housing via Faith Community Collaborative are with us this morning. But one thing you can do to find out more is go to, of course, Google, right? And then you're going to start to see how much is really happening around the country in terms of affordable housing, where, like, here's one: Texas church to become affordable housing. A nearly century-old church will be adapted into 91 apartments. That's this February. Let's see, we'll go there. Fort Worth. And so this is a refit. And you can go in here and also read the article, and it talks a little bit about, their funding development, why they're doing what they're doing. Here it talks about who it will meet the needs of: families earning up to 30, 50, 60 of the AMI. There'll be 50 studio, 13 1, 18 2-bedroom, and 10 3-bedroom. So, it just kind of tells you about it if you want to know more, what are other people doing, right? What's happening elsewhere? I first heard about it here in San Antonio at the Pathways to Hope conference that happens every August, but it was from somebody who was in Colorado, and they were working on it there. And so you can find these kind of developments. Here's one. I assume this is in Austin. Mhm. And this one, I haven't gone to these, I can't quite find that one there. It's how you do when you Google, you kind of squirrel around, right? There's a Church of Christ. Ministry Watch. This is in 22. This is what we're talking about. So either building homes on available acreage. Congregations are one of the
Looks like we may have lost Ann. Yep, she'll be rejoining, I'm sure.
While we are hoping to hear Ann, would anyone like to make a comment about anything?
So she pinged me and asked maybe Jane or Keith if y'all can add into this. Y'all are pretty close to this topic. Ann is back.
I'm back. Sorry about that. Technology has not been my friend lately. So we were Googling around, weren't we? Here we go. So sorry about that. Let's hope that doesn't happen again while we're sitting here. So it doesn't take, well, it does. It takes imagination to see this kind of thing move forward, but it doesn't take a huge leap to understand, like what the possibilities could be. So building on available acreage, churches in particular are some of the largest landowners on the planet. In San Antonio, we estimate there are about 3,500 available acres in San Antonio on congregational properties that don't have buildings on them that could be built on. But it also can be refits of buildings, and we have a lot of buildings on congregational properties that aren't being utilized these days that could be refit into affordable housing and apartments. Do have, what might that look like? And where might we find some of these examples in San Antonio or nearby? I did send out with the notification yesterday the brochure that's for San Antonio and tells the real basics of contacts and what's being done. But this also indicates on the left column some housing options that are being utilized by different locations. And so generally places that have been doing this, they also are building and creating for specific populations. So Keith Weidman, who's on the screen this morning, he put this list together through probably a lot, some research, just like we were doing earlier, but adults diagnosed with mental illness, learning differences, some that are St. John's apartments, which they refit in formed community spaces as well, chronically homeless, families striving for upward mobility, first-time homeowners, of course, we all know Habitat, hospice, housing co-ops, immigrants and refugees, mothers in recovery. Here's town twin, tiny apartments, tiny homes, senior continuing care, senior independent living, student families, interns, youth transitioning from foster care and homeless youth. And I wanted to show you, I think I can do this one. One that where the collaborative is currently working on here in San Antonio on the east side. And this is at Abundant Life. I'm not going to go through all the details, but you can see it's not a very big church. It's not one of our big churches, right? So you could be any size to do this kind of thing. It's about, finding purpose and mission and how you can go about doing this. This is work that the collaborative has done and would be doing with your congregation if you wanted to go this route, but placing it on the map. This is where Abundant Life is located. And then you can start to see more of the plot of land, and it's really small. We're going to go in a little bit closer. But here is the church building. There's a park across the street, which is really nice too for the location. But then they also have an extra building, and then they have this space in the back of their lot. And so that's the space that they're looking at developing. And this is the sketch of what they're looking at. So this area would be a new build, transitional housing for young people aging out of foster care, some outdoor shared space. This is going to be some common space and childcare. We've got parking lots and direct parking for the transitional housing, then as well as the church located here. So you can see, even in a somewhat of a small space, some work can be done to provide more housing for those in need of housing. Young people aging out of foster care is really a critical area, just like any other of those that we listed on that example sheet. And I wanted to go back to that example sheet. People then ask, well, how does this happen? How do people go about doing this and affording it? And every situation, I understand from others across the country, are different, and how they put it together, how they puzzle it together. But there are many ways to partner and build onto a space or refit a space. And I'm not going to go through each one of these in detail, but they give an idea of a land lease or even the sale of a property. I know when I was Googling last night, there was property between a congregation and a college. And so the college bought this property from the congregation and then built affordable housing on it for instructors, not students, but some of the new faculty who came in. And they were running then programs together between the two. And a congregation can, I'm scrolling through this slowly so you can read it if you want, but a congregation can decide how much they want to be involved in the whole build, in the whole process, even wraparound services after it's created, but it can also, one that I visited up in Denver, it was built on a parking lot, pretty much unused at the Episcopal Cathedral. And they built upward apartments, but the wraparound services were provided by a Catholic organization in town. So it was a partnering between the Episcopalians and the Catholics. This website also has some really good information on it. I'll see if I can go there, of how a group has put together information for others to use in creating their own housing on their sites. So let me see if I can get to it. You're all being very kind to me this morning. And I just find a wealth of information in this website. And this wouldn't necessarily, although most of what we've seen this morning is about churches, but it could be on any type of congregational, whether, you know, Jewish or Muslim or Buddhist, any type of religion or faith organization could do this kind of thing. Well, that's beautiful, isn't it? Look at that in that church. But in this Rooted Good, they have, here we go. They have information on building economic models to support it. I could try to go into one. I should have gone here last night. I've got some of their books at my house, and 3 simple steps. Here we go. So they go right into how to go about it. Really good. Anyway, it's an excellent resource with more resources on how to go about doing these kind of builds. So I'm hoping that some folks who are out there from the collaborative are here if there's something that they would like to add to it. Part of what comes with the collaborative and has been developed is what we're calling the first contact team. And right now there are 2 folks on that contact team. And if a congregation is interested in doing it, they can contact, and these 2 guys, Rich and Bill, will come out and have conversations. And they actually helped Abundant Life develop that plan that we looked at, but help a congregation discern if this is what they really want to do. And if it is, what does that look like? And who are they trying to reach out to? And then once that process has kind of solidified, then neighborhood and housing is part of the collaborative, as well as our chief housing officer. And then they kind of kick in and they start then working on funding development and the process for the build. They estimate the process, once it gets to that point, that it takes about 6 to 12 months to kind of get to your final, like what you're going to be doing. And then it takes 12 to 18 months for the build. So it's not a quick process. It takes several years to get there, which raises another question, but I'll just raise that question at this point. And how the question for me is, how do we get more affordable housing and for quicker use? Because we need that as well for like refugees. And there's a meeting next week about refugees and affordable housing. How can we move forward more quickly? But people are finding across the country, those who have gone this route, it has really changed their mission and ministry. And there's been a really exciting process for them. So there might be, there's some questions. I'm gonna back up a little. Oop. Somebody's been putting in information there. Joseph put in really good. Thank you. Oh, somebody's doing. Look at that. I didn't know about CBC. I'm so happy about that. A couple years ago, there was a fabulous article in the newspaper about how they had all this green space out at CBC. So I called a colleague out there, and this was before the pandemic. And I asked him, I saw this article. I assume that you're going to be building some affordable housing there too. And he said, what are you talking about? And it looks like maybe that little seed did something, right? We might come back to that and watch that video. In addition to youth living in private facilities. Risk of homeless, this is so true. Who is the agency that determines the eligibility for the housing? That's a very good question. I don't know who has that answer. I don't know if it is one agency. I think it's probably what's determined by those who've developed it. And then, I mean, I don't know. It's a very good question. And we will find out. Yes, somebody's there. Who is that?
It's Jamie from the city.
Hey, Jamie.
I'm just
hey.
Being a wallflower to your conversation. Great information. I really like the rooted. Rooted. Oh gosh, I forgot the name of it.
Good.
Rooted Good website, and I'm going to take a look at that. But who determines the eligibility for the housing? It really just depends on your congregation and what your mission is. But if you are seeking additional resources like tax credits and federal funding, if you bridge those in and you're trying to leverage those, then there are different income levels that are going to play a factor. But if your congregation is solely doing it with your own capital, you can determine the eligibility. But with federal funding, typically the cap is 80% of the area median income, which is, for a family of four is in like close to 80,000. And, we at the city, we're always looking for people to serve the lowest of income. So it's really just going to depend on your performance model in your way to actually pay for the housing. But typically about either 60% of the area median income or 80% of the area median income are those kind of caps in affordable housing. But unless you use federal funding or city funding, there is no restriction or determination for eligibility. Now, eligibility criteria is a very technical term. If you use those resources in it, it does incorporate things like W-2s, SNAP benefits, things like that you would have to use to determine eligibility. But I want to not get into the weeds. So that's kind of the answer to that question. And I think it would have been too long to put in here, but I will drop into the chat the income levels for the different family sizes for you.
Jamie, would you be able to stay on with us for another about 10 minutes?
Yeah, I'm on for the end.
Great. The call. Because I'm glad you're here. I'm going to take a brief pause. It's 8:28. And so we kind of got the bulk of the information in. And so anyone who may need to be leaving for other meetings, thank you for being with us this week. And we hope to see you next week at the intersection. But I'm so glad, Jamie, that you're here. Why don't you tell folks your role with the city and with housing?
Well, my name is Jamie Lolly Dameron, and I've been with the city for 12 years, and I'm a special projects manager, and I'm the former housing bond administrator. And I am working with Mark Cremona and Allison Beaver from Housing Policy. Mark Cremona is the Chief Housing Officer for the city of San Antonio. And the city of San Antonio had or has a mission-oriented development program that is still in a revamping mode of what it may look like in the future. And so that's the role I play, but I do have a lot of development experience doing affordable housing. I've developed out, partnering with developers, 580 units in the 2017 Neighborhood Improvement Bond Program using our urban renewal agency. And then I most recently, as former bond administrator, assisted the city with a $150 million housing bond, which today City Council has approved 14 projects and over 2,000 new units coming online. There is a permanent supportive housing, which Ann was just talking about, solicitation, a competitive request for proposals that just closed and is in the process of going to council, I think in April or June. And so we're really excited. Monday, there is an active RFP, request for proposals, which is a competitive process for people with land or developers to submit to the city asking for resources if they meet our eligibility requirements. And that closes on Monday. So we should have another chunk of projects coming to council by June. So yeah, so that's kind of what we do here. And I can't promise what the new program for mission-oriented development might look like, but that I'm doing research, and that's why I'm here. I'm just in a research mode, and we're just trying to be useful and listening in on these conversations and gathering as much intel and data and resources so that developing out a potential new program could be beneficial and successful for anyone that is tapping into it. And Peter's on this call, Peter Onofre. He served on the Community Bond Committee. So Peter is one of the critical partners from the community that was appointed, I think in District 3, to help us decide what that affordable housing bond program entailed. And I know that a lot of you are interested in more supportive type services because you don't want to just put people in housing, you want to also support them. And our permanent supportive housing, I think it was 20 or $25 million was set aside for that. And the city has been really strategic. My boss, Ian Benavides, Deputy Director of Neighborhood and Housing Services, went to Bear County and all these other partners to bring in additional resources. And I think we have like $40 million now to help that initiative move forward. So that solicitation is closed. I'm sure there'll be another round for you all who might be interested in putting together a proposal in the future. So, Ann, is that good? You're on mute.
It was great. I'm just so glad you showed up, and it'd be really great if you could join us at the collaborative meetings that happen. Our next one is next Tuesday from 3 to 4:30, and so that would be great. I don't know, Jamie, were you on when I was showing Abundant Life and their possible plan?
So I tend to join virtually, and I know we had some technical issues. And so I wish you all the best for another better hybrid next week. So if there is a meeting, a virtual option would be fantastic for me. Like I said, I am just in an absorption sponge mode right now. But, you know, if there is something with technically I can, without, committing any resources, I could give you advice on from my development experience, I will, but I'm hoping that I can learn more about that project in the future.
That'd be great. Folks, do you have any questions or thoughts? Jerry, thank you for yours. You spurred a lot of information there. So again, I just really wanted to share this with you this morning. Oh, here's a question. Yes.
I'm not sure if my name is appearing, but it's Susan Ford Pfeiffer with Reach, Teach, Love, and I had posted the information on CBC. But on those RFPs for housing, you were talking earlier about the quickness of it. Is this going to be classic housing building, or are they looking into the modern prefab where it's much quicker? I mean, we utilized that downtown how many decades ago, building out that hotel in record time. So that was my question for the city. Is that RFP looking at modular prefabbed housing where it's quick, or is it classic construction?
So with the bond funding, it has to be capitalizable. And what that means, it needs to be a permanent structure. So how you get that permanent structure there doesn't really necessarily matter. So a prefab should work. We're also looking at we have other priorities besides just the housing. We want to make sure it's quality. So making sure your prefab is high energy efficient. So your prefab needs to have really good insulation, really nicely sealed, which can be challenging sometimes with prefabbed buildings, but it doesn't mean it can't be done. It's all about your project manager, right? And quality control. So yes, to your point directly, yes, prefab is an eligible building type.
Other thoughts or questions, especially while Jamie's with us?
And I just, we can't talk directly about the RFP. We're on restriction on communications with all city staff. So you can ask me general questions, but just don't ask me directly about the actual solicitation.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you all for being here this morning. No more questions or comments. And of course, I'm trying to keep my talking to a limited amount. I'm trying not to cough is what I'm trying not to do. But it was great to see you all this morning. I hope you have great weekends. I might think about you this weekend while I'm in Seattle, but yeah, I'm going to do something else for a couple of days. Thank you all for your commitment to our city and for all that you contribute. I wish you the best of days, and I will see you next Thursday.